Hello. This is RP Shitpost, a podcast devoted to gaming, tech, stuff like that. Um, I have Liam and Heb here, and we're trying to talk about shit, but they're being a bunch of assholes.
We used to be able to put things under our streams. We can't do that
He's
anymore.
drunk.
Dude,
No, you remember that? Like we
you
used
do
to
that.
be able to
You
put.
do that shit in post. You don't do that now.
But we used to be able to.
It doesn't seem
You
like we're
know?
able to now. Remember, we did it like 8,000 years ago, and things change. Times
Yeah, we
change.
did that, dude. We did that a decade ago.
If you start crying, man, I'm serious.
Why did they
We're
remove
getting to
those
the emotional
features?
drunk stage right now. Is that what we're hitting?
Uh,
I fucking love you guys.
oh my god. I want to serenade you with a nice song.
All right, keep going.
All right, take 3.
I don't even think we need another take. I think that was perfect.
That was perfect.
Yeah, no,
We're just gonna keep going.
that's what we're
No
going
cuts.
for.
Just
Yeah.
fucking go. That's what we're
Did
going
you
with.
keep the
I'm putting the
thing
whole
where
thing.
I opened the
I'm not
beer
even
with the
cutting
butcher
it.
knife? Because that was cool as fuck. I don't think I can do that again.
It'll be our fucking outro.
Yeah. Just bloopers, I guess.
Perfect. All right. Let's. Sorry.
So yeah, we're here to banter and talk about games, whether it be video or board game, doesn't matter.
Shit's up in the air.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do because we want to have fun. I've been playing games since I was 2.
No.
Heb here has developed games. Liam is an esports guy, constant shit poster.
Now
And
here's Liam. Liam is like an animal. Liam is a
I
fucking
can't
zoo
talk
animal. Liam is like when you go to the zoo and you see a fucking monkey in the leopard enclosure.
Dude, I'm not
That's
jumping
Liam.
out.
Wait, Liam's the monkey, or is he the leopard?
Both. No, he's the hippo in there.
They're all mixed. That's a bad zoo, man. You way too drunk to do this, aren't you?
That's the ones we got.
California.
All right, am I?
Yeah. So, if you wanted to start out, Liam, with like just some esports, I mean,
Esports shit.
it'd be
All right.
good to start.
I got the esports shit.
Oh god,
So,
I'm getting
League
a
of
call.
Legends last week.
I'm getting a call.
Heb,
from
shut the
no.
fuck up.
You know, it's better now than in the middle of you actually doing it, like a
Yeah,
fucking
probably.
asshole. Get your pizza now, or
I
will
got a
end you.
call. I got a call from an unknown number. So
It's the
what fuck?
pizza. They're like,
No,
where do you live? I can't find you in this Mexican village.
He would call from like a 714 number because it's California.
What is the one that you just got?
Unknown.
I swear to God, if you interrupt us again, I will come down there.
Bitch, I'm a panelist. All right.
You're up. Done.
So, League of Legends news. League of Legends last week in NA, we have some definite clear top tier people. 100 Thieves, Cloud9, Team Liquid, all 2-0 after last week. And last week from now, today is the 27th of January. So, Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, Cloud9 looking strong. Echo Fox actually came out with a 2-0. Do I expect that to stay? No, I don't expect that to stay at all. I think probably Echo Fox will probably be back down in the shitter at some point because
They're garbage.
It's not so much that they're garbage, it's just they've been known to have very, very poor management and leadership in Echo Fox. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. Bottom of the barrel, you get some interesting bottom of the barrel teams. TSM, CLG, both 0 and 2 in the fucking gutter.
which is
Not-
surprising for
It's
past
surprising for
year.
TSM.
Yeah.
Because TSM usually, even if they do poorly in the beginning, they're still somewhere around the middle. But they started 0-2. I mean, they just shit the bed real hard. 2 games, no real excuses for it, and they have an okay roster right now. CLG is not surprising at all that they're doing terribly. They lost season. They lost Afromu. They lost a lot of big fucking people. So that's what's going down on NA for the teams and standings. Right now, they're getting ready to play. I believe it'll be in 2 or 3 hours. Today will be Clutch Gaming CLG, TSM against Optic, C9 versus Echo Fox, 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid, Golden Guardians versus FlyQuest. Clutch Gaming versus CLG, toss-up game. TSM versus Optic Gaming. TSM looks like shit, but so does Optic Gaming. Toss-up game. I think Cloud9 is going to stomp the shit out of Echo Fox. I think 100 Thieves is probably going to pull out a win against Liquid, although that's going to be the game of the week for sure in North America. And Golden Guardians versus FlyQuest, who really cares?
Yeah.
That is what's going on today in North America. If we look over to the EU currently, as it stands, they are currently playing. Vitality is in the top with 3-0. Giants is 3-1. Rocket is 3-1. FC Schalke is 2-1. Misfits Gaming is 2-1. H2K is 1-3. G2 is 1-2. Splice is 1-2. Fnatic is 1-2. And Unicorns of Love down at the very bottom is 0-4.
Yeah.
So basically, where this comes at is Giants, Rocket, Vitality are doing well for the start. Vitality is doing obviously the best. They're 3-0 right now. I believe they're going to be playing their game here soon, as we're talking right now. And there's really no clear shit team except for Unicorns of Love. That's pretty much it for that. I believe their schedule for today, the last 2 games that are being played right now are Misfits versus Vitality, which Vitality should probably win because they're looking like they're the best. Schalke versus Splice, and Fnatic versus. On another esports note, just I believe 1 week ago, we have finally crowned a new world champion for Hearthstone, and his name is Tom. He's from Taiwan. He beat out Frozen in the final game. Frozen is from North America, so good on him.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a couple of questions about that for you, because usually the champions for any sort of strategy game are not from North America. So
that's an interesting.
What about Hearthstone? You were talking to me about this the other day. You were telling me that Hearthstone isn't like that.
Is North America's game, really? I mean, North America and EU especially is the kind of go-to for the Hearthstone scene, and it's really just because they have the highest density of top 100, top 50 players in the world. They mostly come from North America, and which includes Canada and the EU. They're vastly outweigh everybody else in the rankings, just in general, and it's been that way for quite a while. It has been shifting a little bit more. I did notice in this year World's Tournament that there was actually quite a few more Asian players from China, Korea, mostly. Hello, Kat. That were representing the bracket rounds for.
So it's just starting that the Asian players are joining.
It's not so much that they're just now starting.
Like recently,
they've been
that's
playing.
Like the recent trend.
They've been playing.
It hasn't been
We've had an Asian player win before. I forget his name. I believe it was the second World's Championship. But it's just they play and they all have top slots, but they just don't have as many as North America and EU. They have many more slots in the top 50, top 100 area.
Is that because Asian communities are playing Hearthstone less and focusing more on like StarCraft or League of Legends?
Yeah,
I would imagine so. I don't think that the Hearthstone community for a lot other places outside of the EU and North America, I don't think they have a very high player base. I know that the Chinese in particular has quite a low player base. I know that because the average, interesting statistic is that the lower the population is of the game, the higher the average skill rating is, right? So the less people you have, the better the people probably will be played, right? And in arena stats, China actually has the best overall arena stats in the entire Hearthstone community, but they have a very small player base compared to.
Is that because the averages aren't being bogged down by the garbage players, like sort of?
That's because the Chinese are used to playing against bots.
That intermediate level is quite high in other regions, especially compared to North America. In North America, it's pretty trash in the intermediate level. But the high level of play, the really, really high level of play, you see more showings from the North American players. You also see better finishes from the North American players especially in any other esports. And you could argue whether or not Hearthstone's an esports, but you could argue that all day. But, fact remains, NA is best at Hearthstone. Yeah. And it's the only thing we're good at.
Because we're getting killed in every other esport known to man.
Oh my god, we're getting slaughtered. Hey, well, I wasn't going to talk about CSGO, but Cloud9 from North America.
Hey, before you move on that same point, do you think that North Americans are also better at Gwent?
At Gwent? I think the EU.
Or do you think the Asians?
I think it's EU. The EU is definitely where the biggest tournaments and where the biggest esports people are. I mean, you got a lot of major players like Super JJ and Life Coach that bring over a lot of fans from that region, from those regions into Gwent. And there's just not really been that many North American showings for Gwent in tournaments.
So it's not like Hearthstone at all.
It's also a lot smaller than Hearthstone, like a lot smaller than Hearthstone. I mean, the game officially like last year, and has only really gotten any major publication by major Hearthstone players leaving to play it. So, I mean, it's nowhere near the same level of a game as.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right.
All right, on to you there, Davey boy. What would you like to talk about this fine morning?
So yesterday was the start of the Las Vegas tournament for Warhammer. And I thought it was the 29th. Apparently it was yesterday, and they released a ton of awesome stuff. We're getting codexes for Necron factions, Tau factions, and Drukhari factions, and it will really pull together all of the huge fan base that is the Xenos sub-faction of the game. These, especially Necrons and Tau, they're so limited at this point with not getting any assistance from our chapter approved books or enough at all from index books to be able to play as effectively as like any Space Marine faction, really. So we've been being killed. To see these have the amount of like care put into them as we expect, I'm thinking that Tau and Necron are going to be top tier as soon as these books come out, which are scheduled to release at around mid-March. And I'm very excited as someone who plays both Necrons and Tau almost exclusively. So it's really awesome.
Okay, man. Now I got a few questions for you. As far as someone who, their whole lives since I was a kid, like a little kid, like 12, before I even met Dumb, I always played World of Warcraft, and then Warhammer came out, and people, when Warhammer 1, just Warhammer came out, they used to say, oh, it's just such a copy. Like, what
Are
do you say
talking
to
about the
people like that?
MMO? Are
Yeah.
you talking about? Yeah, he's not talking about the. He's talking about the tabletop.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get people? Because there is a Warcraft tabletop game as well. So how do you get people who are into one franchise to consolidate all this information and say, "Look, I'll try another one"?
Okay. So to say that it's a copy is
It's not a copy.
blatantly
It's
wrong.
not a copy. I will admit that as a player that has been on it for like 10 or more years.
If anything,
Just
Warcraft copied Warhammer.
This is
War,
true.
Warhammer,
Warhammer's been out since like the 80s or
Yeah.
some shit.
Warhammer
Well,
Fantasy
not for a long time.
originated.
Warcraft has been out since the 80s as well, so we would have to check the chronology there.
Warcraft,
For sure.
The idea behind Warcraft started in 1994. Year I was born.
No.
It has. Warhammer Fantasy started in 1983.
Look up orcs versus humans.
So to say that it's a copy, it's just blatantly
First release, the first Warcraft game was released November 23rd, 1994. And if you go to...
There's literally
All right,
nothing before that.
1994.
So
94.
Yeah. All right.
Warhammer.
There's been a lot of speculation and almost confirmation from the developers of Games Workshop, who develops Warhammer, and Blizzard, who develops Warcraft, that yes, they did incorporate ideas from each other, but
1987.
Yeah, in truth, they're their own separate entities. You can see aspects of each in them, but they're separate. And
Okay.
I personally,
my question wasn't who was first or who was real.
Yeah.
My question was
arguably Tolkien.
Exactly. So, like, I mean, you can't really, what are you gonna say? Like,
basically, what
the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was first.
So that was just my first thing.
Tolkien.
Now to answer your other question.
Listen, what I'm asking before you answer, what I'm asking is like,
I don't even know.
How do you get a fanboy from one player?
Yeah, exactly.
Game from
how
another player?
do you make someone who has been playing World of Warcraft for 11 or so years, who is so into this lore, who knows every detail, who can tell you the name of every character and how they fit into this universe?
So
how do you move them on to Hammer?
Okay, so if you're going with straight people who who want lore, all I can say is the lore for Warcraft is deeper, larger, and more expanded than Warcraft will ever be. There are literally 1,000 sub-factions of Space Marines that exist and that have stories and that all have fought in battles. It's 40,000 years of darkness and technological advancements and explosions and death, and it's all the things that a Warcraft player and a Warcraft lore lover can love in a different genre and type of game. If you want to get into the miniatures tabletop thing or a pen and paper experience like D&D, you can go to Warhammer Fantasy. You can go to the Rogue Traders, and you can play these games and create your own lore that it will always be a little deeper and a little more expanded than what Warcraft is doing. And that's why I like it.
Deeper and more expanded.
Well, you can make it as expanded as you want.
Is it more like freeform? Is what you're trying to say? Like when you play Warcraft, I think the game is taking you through the story as whatever happens. But when you play, say, a tabletop game or a game where you're role can make up, how things are happening in real time. Is that kind of?
Yeah, it is more freeform. It is more freeform, but it still follows a general line. You will always go from fantasy, and that's really more split up than the 40K. But then you have the Horus Heresy, when Horus, a very prominent figure in the Empire, betrays the Emperor, and there was a giant battle, and it's a pinnacle point, and it's actually like a subsection of the other game called Warhammer 30K. It's a whole thing, and then you get into 40K. All the Necrons are waking up again, and you're fighting, and you see new races like the Tau, and you have all these great big things that you can mold your own story onto. It is a lot more freeform than I'm going through and picking each quest in a town, and now I know the story. You know?
Yeah.
That's a huge point in Warhammer's favor, because that's sort of like Blizzard's MO for World of Warcraft. It's just you go to a town and you pick a quest.
I mean, they're part of a theme park, I don't know. Or they show you the ride, and you're just kind of along for the ride. You go to the places it tells you to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You stand in queue and you ride Splash Mountain. That's it.
Or, you know,
Instead
But
of
it's
building
fun as
Splash.
guided tour in North Korea.
Yeah. Or
It's fun as fucking
really, yeah. Or you essentially build Splash Mountain and then ride it. Like, you do what you want. It's I believe it's better. I still love Warcraft, but Warhammer will now always be just a little bit better, in my opinion.
Very nice. I wouldn't try it.
You wouldn't?
I don't know. I've heard.
Well, I'm a fanboy. I wouldn't try it. I'm a fucking diehard fanboy for Blizzard. So, I'm sorry.
It's like a pen.
Yeah. Really.
It's kind of the general XCOM. Sometimes you love XCOM. Sometimes you hate XCOM a lot.
Most of the time, you hate XCOM. I did not have fun with those games. Not at all. Well, you're more of a strategy guy anyway, so that makes sense.
XCOM, the space exploration thing. You know, that was
not the space the turn-based strategy, the one where you control a squad and whatnot.
Yeah.
You kill Xenos.
So yeah, new releases.
Wasn't Freelancer part of the XCOM franchise?
It might have been. I can't remember, honestly.
Well, I don't know. If it was, that was one of the greatest, I want to say, exploration and strategy games out there. And it was all about trading. And, you know, you buy supplies at this outpost, and then you hawk them out at another outpost. It was fucking amazing. And I'm pretty sure it was like a predecessor to XCOM. Because when they ran the XCOM X4 Kickstarter,
what was the name?
They were trying to link it to Freelancer, which is the one I'm talking about, which was like a game that came out like in the early 20s.
It does.
The 2000s.
Does not look like it was even a spiritual successor. It was actually a sequel to another game. Well, a spiritual sequel to another game. Starlancer, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, all right. I was completely wrong there then. Yeah.
From the way that you've described it, though,
pretty fucking awesome game.
It sounds like it's sort of based very loosely off of the Rogue Traders from 40K.
No, well, see, that's not where. It wasn't loosely based, because this game was based on like an earlier game from like the 90s for like the MS-DOS, which did the same thing, and there was like 1,000 planets that you would travel between and trade. And it was
like
by the same
early
developer.
Fantasy genres. I feel like, especially the early ones, I feel like they didn't, like, you can't necessarily say that one really copied from another because they were all basically doing the same shit. Like, the same things were popular then, and they didn't have the technology to really, separate themselves from the pack. So you just did what
everyone else did.
Everybody else did because it worked. It's like, all the fucking platformer games all kind of look like Mario games, really, on the level or on the surface of it, because
yeah, Mario did it
the
best.
Technology that Mario did it best, and it's not necessarily that they straight copied. I mean, I'm sure some of them straight copied, but they took, hey, these things work, let's use some of these things. That's how these video gaming in general gets developed. Is, hey, this system works, let's use this system in this game because it works.
Make it better. Sometimes.
Yep. Sometimes they make it worse. Sometimes they make it way worse.
Which, speaking of making things worse, I know you wanted to speak a little bit about Ubisoft.
I wanted to use Ubisoft as a jumping off point for a slightly bigger topic. It's than just Ubisoft in general. So Ubisoft has been doing something very interesting in this last year, especially this last year. They have been going back to their shit-tiered launch and fixing them, actually fixing them, making them playable, making them even good. Like, is a good game right now. When it launched, it was a heaping pile of fucking garbage.
You cut out a little bit. Which game?
The Division.
Oh,
Tom Clancy's Division.
Yep.
Complete fucking shit show of a game when it launched.
Yeah, didn't it have the line that people had to queue in to be able to go into the next quest?
Well, see, that was just the product of its time. That wasn't so much. I mean, I don't know. People bitched about it, but that was just how it was.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's come out in the current year that they released before it was ready, that had bugs up the ass, had terrible fucking AI systems. The fucking connectivity was shit. The Dark Zone was shit. The PvP section of the game was basically unfucking playable. They had all the enemies were nothing but giant bullet sponges, which they're a little bullet spongy now. But I mean, if you had a gun that was just like a couple levels below what you were currently facing, you could literally spend your entire supply of ammunition and not even take away half their health.
Ugh. It
was that bad. And this was just normal enemies. Like, this game launched in a fucking horrid shit show of an existence. But now it's a great game. I've played it. It's fun. It is fun as shit. I've probably put about 20 hours in. Obviously, I've been playing lots of other things, but it's fantastic. And this actually is really interesting because they are planning on doing a similar thing to For Honor, a game that launched that had terrible... I mean, they've had connectivity issues from when it launched in February till now. It launched last February, and they are still unable to have, dedicated servers and have stable internet connections between players, where people are constantly dropping out. It is, and not to mention their fucking character base is completely just unbalanced. But for this next season, season 5, they are giving dedicated servers, real dedicated servers. They are reworking 5 of their champions. 5 of them. Oh. That's like a third of their roster. They're completely reworking from the ground up because they're so terrible and unbalanced. And this, I feel like, is something that more game companies need to do. I'm going to preface this with, I don't think gaming companies should be releasing unfinished pieces of shit. And under no circumstances should a fucking game develop a game at full price and have it not finished, have it with massive amounts of bugs, connectivity issues, poor game design, the works, right?
I think it goes also as far as like when they port things over to PC as well. Like when they first ported
like
Dark
Watch
Souls.
Dogs, like the Ubisoft game right there, Watch Dogs, the first Watch Dogs game. That came out. That was a fucking mess of shit.
But here you guys are ignoring the best PC games, and that comes from console people such as yourself.
I'm not really talking about that.
Well,
jumping off point for.
Hold on, though. because Minecraft was fully released on PC about 2 years before, a stable version even came out as a beta.
Yeah.
And City Skylines, which basically took over the mantle for the Sim City genre, was released as a pre-release like 2 or 3 years before an actual stable version was released on Steam.
Yes.
And all these are, critically acclaimed games. KSP, Kerbal Space Program, was released as a pre-release at least 4 years before the first stable version
I'm not
came
talking
out.
about pre-releases, though.
So Heb, this is
thing.
yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are, because you're talking about
But
games that released.
They didn't
themselves.
release pre.
All right, here's the thing, though. Those
They
games that
didn't
you're
release
talking
early.
about
They
are
released
toxic.
on time.
They released, yeah, like okay. Let me
And they weren't
get this
finished.
point across. Like there was
Like,
this
it's one
very
thing to
famous
be in
game
early
for
access.
the
There's
360
another
called
thing for it to be a
Asura's
pre-release.
Wrath, and they released on a CD, on a disc. It was a full $60 game, and it only included 2 chapters of the game, which was like 2 levels, and this was like
And
a
that
15-level
pissed
game.
Everyone off having
Yeah,
paid $60
and then you had
for that
to wait for like 5 months to get the rest, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just because there's 1 or 2 outliers doesn't mean that we
That's
have
a
to
cash
ignore all these other people, like Minecraft, like City Skylines, or like Kerbal Space Program, that are genuinely, they don't have the money to release a full game,
I'm
so
not
they're
talking-
just releasing
see,
part of it.
I'm not talking about indie companies. I'm not talking about early access
Well,
games. I'm talking
okay,
about
but I know
big
you're not, but when you
developers.
do, that sort of puts them together with them, because
So the
normal
difference,
people
Heb,
don't understand the difference.
the difference is that when
I know
Minecraft
the difference,
released,
but normal people don't know that.
when Minecraft released, they stated it was a pre-release. When
Yep.
Whatever the Division came out, they said it was a full release and it was garbage.
That's
That's
the
the
real main
huge
thing.
difference. Kerbal was a
And that-
pre-release.
So you're basically against DLC.
I'm against
That's-
paying for a DLC. It's like Final Fantasy 15.
It's not even the DLC. The DLC is not even the problem. The problem is that the core fundamental of the game doesn't work.
It's
It's
like Final Fantasy
non-functional.
15. They released an entire game in quotes, and they released a $60 DLC
Well.
that finished it.
Well, let me tell you something then. It's like World of Warcraft or any other MMO,
Those
including
were finished
Warhammer.
games. Those were
No,
finished games.
no, by no means, because they released this thing that was completely unpatched and full of bugs, and then about a year later they released an expansion pack which fixed all the bugs, and sure, it added a little bit of new content, but mostly it just fixed,
How much do they charge for that?
the bugs and leveled out. $60 each expansion.
I think
$60.
that's fucked. I think that's super fucked. If you have a broken game, you fix the broken game, then you move on.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's not like a new thing that the industry is doing. That's just how it operates.
But
It
that's
takes
the
a
thing,
while
is
to
I'm
develop.
talking about major AAA titles producing games that are unfinished, that are producing them regularly that are unfinished, right?
Sure,
Like
EA
Ubisoft
has
did
no
2
excuse.
years ago. EA this last year especially.
They have the
Other
source,
major
the
game
resources.
companies. It's just is that this is getting to a point where it, like when World of Warcraft released, right? I didn't play World of Warcraft when it released, obviously, but I'd imagine that even though it was full of bugs and it was really fucking all over the goddamn place, that it was probably still fun to play, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not
Yeah,
fun
all
to
right,
play
I'll
the
give you
Division
that.
on
I'll
release.
give you that.
On release. It's not fun. It was not fun to play For Honor on release day. Because guess what? You didn't play For Honor on release day.
So then-
you couldn't fucking connect.
So then you have like the meme games, like like My Summer Car or Goat Simulator 2017, which are not fun to play, but they're still full games. And you signed up for it, so you know what you're getting into.
That's less about the quality of the game and more about people's preferences. You don't like that game because you don't think it's fun. I might like that game. I'm different than you. So I would think it's a full game that's fun to play. We're talking about when the Division came out, you couldn't play because there was a soft lock of one person being able to do a quest at a time. When you played For Honor, you couldn't connect to the game because the servers were so bad. These are the things we're talking about. Fix those first, then move on to more content.
That's permanently online games. That's a whole different thing, and those are shit. So I'll agree with you.
City Skylines. City Skylines. That was a one-player game that you needed DRM to play.
Look, they released the patch for that.
A month later.
All right. So I'm conceding the point. You guys win. That's right.
Damn right we win.
City Skyline was shit.
Developers shouldn't, if you order a fight,
you shouldn't have to
they give you raw fucking meat on the sandwich, then the fucking sandwich is unedible. It's not. You can't eat that. You get fucking sick.
You send it back.
If a fucking video game company fucking releases something that's not finished, then that's a fucking problem.
Cool.
Exactly. It's uncured ham. It's just not. It's no good.
No good.
Smoke that.
No
bitch.
bueno. No bueno.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And back to the topic I was going to. A lot of these AAA games companies, when they produce a shit tier game, instead of fixing them, most of these big AAA companies just drop that shit on its fucking head. They just drop. They're like, fuck it, we're not gonna fix it. We're not gonna do jack all. We're just gonna fucking rake in the sales of the fucking of the initial sales, right? And then just drop the game on its head. Ubisoft though has actually done a shift where they stopped doing that, like they did with the Assassin's Creed games, where they're just like, we made a bad Assassin's Creed game. Everybody thought it was buggy and shit and unfinished. Well, we'll just make another one.
Egypt looks good,
year, right?
I think
Egypt pretty much, right? But
I'm ready to love again.
This last year, they've gone back to fixing. They're actually fixing their games, and I think that's interesting because the amount of money and manpower it takes to fix and manage a busted ass game ends up costing them more in the long run than just making a new fucking game and raking in the massive sales from the initial purchases, right? And I think
that's what Blizzard learned real quick.
Yeah. But the fact that they are actually sticking with their games and trying to improve them and trying to make them better is actually really pro-consumer. Like, really pro-consumer. And I really wish more games and more game companies would do this. Another big example was Final Fantasy XIV, the MMO, right? When it first released, it was a hulking pile of fucking shit. Like, complete mess. Bugs out the asshole, game was unplayable, unoptimized, had no real direction, graphics were old and outdated, led by a fucking inexperienced team, had no idea what they're doing. Well, Square Enix decided that they were going to fucking fix this game. And so they brought in professional experts on MMOs, and they brought in a new lead designer. I forget his name, Japanese guy, who worked on many of the other Final Fantasy games. And they released A Realm Reborn, and A Realm Reborn kicks ass. I've played it. I know Dave here's played it.
Yeah.
It fucking kicks ass. And every time they release new content, right? Sure, you're paying, for the expansions like you do in WoW.
Significantly
but you feel
less,
like you're
though.
actually. So yeah, it's like $30, $25, $30, something like that. Yeah, it's about half. But you get a full experience out of it.
It's
like
a whole
almost
nother
another
game.
Game's worth. It's like another game inside. Like you get
an expansion in WoW.
But
except for everybody doesn't get angry at the expansion that comes out.
The point is that
good point.
Some of the games that these AAA companies are releasing are very interesting ideas, right? They're super interesting. They might have certain systems that are super revolutionary. but they release them in they release them in fucking piles of shit. I just can't stress that enough. So many of the games that have come out in the last 2 or 3 years have just been fucking garbage. There are a few exceptions to that, obviously, but from the AAA companies, it's just gone downhill, and they're unwilling to spend the time and the effort to actually make good games, and they just seem to just be gouging the consumer. And I don't fucking think that's okay. I think we should hold them fucking accountable for it.
Well, see, Liam, me and David had this conversation about half a fucking decade ago on the last podcast that we hosted, and it was exactly that. It was like the AAA companies are holding us hostage, and they know that we will always buy their games, and so they're releasing shittier and shittier content every time.
And it's just gotten shittier. What I'm saying is that it's
what's the solution? I mean, what I'm saying is this complaint has been heard before.
So the solution is,
how can we
the
fix
solution
it?
is we support the AAA titles, or the AAA developers that are making good things. The guys who made Breath of the Wild, that's
two
amazing.
Opposite solutions.
No.
Either you don't buy shit or you buy all the shit.
No, you buy the good shit.
You don't see, that's the fucking wonderful thing about living in a nice capitalist America.
Yeah.
If you don't like something, you just don't fucking buy it. If EA is making garbage fucking games after garbage game, if we don't buy their shit, they won't make garbage shit without quite a bit.
But when EA released Battlefront 2, how many people didn't buy it?
Actually, enough so that Disney had to step in and say, you have to take this shit down. And
after
they did.
6 fucking months.
It was not 6 months. It was like 2.
It was like 2 months.
It was
exactly
2 weeks.
2 months.
After
2 months, well, by then, all the first week.
Fucking money.
Yeah, exactly.
Money talks, bullshit walks, and their money was gone.
So there's
it's escalating. It's continued to escalate. Like, we could have this fucking conversation a decade ago, right? And it was bad then. Obviously, it was fucking bad then. I can think of a couple of things off the top of my head that fucking garbage that people bought anyways. But it's getting worse and worse and worse, and they're gouging more and more and more money. At some point, something's got to give, right?
That's going to be our wallets. As soon as they start making games for $100 each, like, disc, at that point, I'm done. You know, I'm gonna learn to make my own games.
I bought the South Park game, the Fractured Butthole, for $100. I bought it for $100.
You fucking
they're already doing that. No, but it supposedly.
Wait, did you get a soundtrack?
I think you bought the special.
No. It included all the DLC and
then you bought a game and all the deal. You bought a season pass. That is why you spent $100.
Exactly. All right. Well, let me tell you something. I should be able to buy a game for $60 and get the full fucking game. All right. And another thing, when I tried to download the DLC, the game stopped working. So
I would recommend you buy a better computer.
I would recommend the video gaming industry to get their shit together, because they use the same exact engine as the Stick of Truth, which ran perfectly
now
on any computer, because it's a 2D fucking game. It's not even 3D.
The thing is, though,
it's not even 3D.
2 different companies, though.
I have to
exactly.
Look
but it's not even a 3D game, Dave. It's
like the Fractured Butthole was made by
Paper Mario.
I'm not saying Ubisoft is perfect. Mario. I'm just saying that they're going in the right direction.
They're going in the Nintendo 64 Paper Mario.
So it's 2 different. It was, like Liam said, 2 different companies. Obsidian Entertainment made the Stick of Truth. Obsidian is always fantastic. I love the things that they do. And
I agree. Played a bad Obsidian game. I have, however, played a bad Ubisoft game or 2.
Yeah.
I also agree with that.
They made such titles as New Vegas, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1. Like, these are all great things that they've made before, and then they let Ubisoft take control of the Fractured But Whole, and it screwed it all up.
They sure did. Like Ubisoft does.
Well,
You know.
I'm glad you're coming to our side.
No, I mean, you're coming to my side after, I had to, like, spell it out for you guys. But, yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm still not 100% sure what your side is, to be fucking honest.
Really?
We're all here for fun.
Maybe next time you should not drink before the
Like,
podcast.
you started off with me
That was a while
about
ago.
shitty games, the unreleased games, and then you started arguing for my side, and I'm like, I'm just confused.
Ugh.
All right, here's the real argument. Has Ubisoft made any good game in the past, let's say 2 years, since like 3 years?
On
Let's
release,
say 2016. Let's say they've
on release currently,
since they released it on 2016, or going forward. Is it any good? Which one?
I mean, does the game have to be good on release, or can it be good on down the line?
No. I mean, they could have fixed it, but it just has to have been released in 2016. Yeah, and there's not a single one you can think of.
Let's see here. You have.
No, yeah, sure. I mean, if you take half an hour to think about it.
Was Far Cry Primal
I'm just trying
good?
to think of it.
I don't even know.
I've not played it. I can't say I've played it. Far Cry 4 came out in 2016, right? Far Cry 4 was a good game.
Come on, man. Just Dance 2017? That was the best shit ever.
No.
I would argue that even though you've been having problems with a Fractured But Whole, on the whole, it actually has received good reviews on average for the most part.
That doesn't change the fact that it was $100 for a season pass for a game, for a 2D game.
I think you came off in the green, to be honest. Because like most season pass games, $60 game,
sad.
And then it probably another $20 on top of that.
Well, I mean, it was 60 on release, 45, like 49 if you got it on Steam or something like that.
So you're bitching about like nothing at this point.
No, I'm bitching about principles. I mean, holy fuck! If every game went from $60 to 100 within the next year, which they are fine to do, how is the gaming industry going to look? 10 years from now, when every game is $1,000 each, and they each take a whole year to be released, just like movies.
I think a year is way too little of a time to release a
What the
good
fuck
game.
are we playing?
I think. Well, I know that Activision, the way they release their Call of Duties is it's 2 years. So they have 2 teams working on it at any given, or 3 teams working on it. Every team is working on it every year, so it's a 3-year development cycle for each game. So what's happening in the industry is that the bigger companies, Ubisoft, EA, Activision, eat up the smaller companies, and basically have each game developer team working on a different title at any given time. The problem is that some of those fucking developers that they picked up are pieces of shit, and the companies themselves, in order to try and make money and keep competitive and keep their costs under wraps because the increase in technology and the fact that it's not really become accessible, they're pushing the limits. I'd argue they're pushing the limits a little bit too fast. It's just not becoming financially stable for them to just release a game and just that's it. Whatever you make is whatever you make off of the sales. That's why they're adding microtransactions, loot boxes, DLC, season passes. Is they're trying to get as much money as possible so they can continue to push the envelope, because that's what the people think they want to see. But that's not what they want. I mean, look at the best games of the last couple of years. You've got a lot of fucking indie platformers like Cuphead and shit like
Undertale.
That's a $20 game.
Exactly. You don't need to have crazy ass graphics and insane.
Undertale is a 2013 game, mind you.
And big
That's 5 years
multiplayer
ago.
maps and all this shit. You don't have to have all of that to have fun to play video games. You don't.
All right. Name me the best games from the last couple of years, because
last
Cuphead
year
is a $20 indie game, and Undertale was released in 2013, 5 years ago.
I have not played a lot of these games personally, but paraphrasing from pretty much everybody else's top 10s, the best games of last year was Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, Mario Odyssey, and Cuphead. Those are the 3 that are in the best of pretty much everybody. Everybody loves those games to fucking death.
Breath of the Wild, not Wind Waker.
Yeah, not Breath of the Wild, not Wind Waker. Right. Before that,
well, I mean, both of them are right, because Wind Waker is timeless because of the cartoonish graphics that they chose.
But we're not. We're talking about the last couple years. So.
And a bunch
well,
of
he said, Undertale.
I didn't say Undertale.
He said Cuphead, Breath
year.
of the Wild,
and Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, Mario Odyssey is
basically a 3D platformer.
Reviews.
Like it's considered to be probably the best game to be released this year by a lot of people. A lot of people are saying it, and it's just a fucking platformer. It's a Nintendo platformer. There's nothing special about Nintendo platformers.
And to be honest,
okay, here's 2 things about that.
People are having fun with
Nintendo
it.
games.
That's all that matters.
All right, that's 2 Nintendo games, and both of them are fanboy games. You're talking about Breath of the Wild, which is the Legend of Zelda game.
Yep.
Which is the Legend of Zelda game that we've been waiting for since before Skyward Princess was announced. Probably since before Twilight Princess was announced. People were waiting for an open world RPG.
Skyward Princess, my favorite of the Zelda
Skyward
games.
Sword. That's how forgettable that game was. But the thing is, people were waiting for an open world
motion control,
Legend
guys.
of Zelda game.
You fucking cuck.
And people were also waiting for a spiritual successor that could match that Mario game
Odyssey
with the squirting water.
Sunshine.
Fucking Mario Sunshine. So you're talking about 2 very fanboy games, like 2 games that
I truly don't think that matters, to be honest.
It does, because they were obviously going to be 10 out of 10 games, and even if you don't play them, they're going to be 10 out of 10 for you, because that's what you heard, and you haven't played them, so of course they're going to be 10 out of 10.
You know what? Some of the fanboyiest games in the history of forever.
It's a new game.
What are they?
I've never played it, and I never plan on playing it.
Ocarina of Time and fucking
it's
Sonic.
considered to be one of the best games.
But then you have games like Sonic Boom. That's the fanboyiest thing that you've ever seen in your entire life. Worst game I've ever played. Worst game.
Sonic 2006.
Now we're hitting low blows, but you can't go by the Splatoon 2. That shit was fantastic. In my opinion.
I think that's one of those fanboy games.
But at what point does something turn into a fanboy game?
By the point that it's not good on its own merit, and it's only good because Nintendo released it.
Maybe
that's obviously not true, because open world fantasy games have almost always done. I name you an open world fantasy game that was made by a reliable developer that did poorly. Name one.
Skyrim for the Switch. Skyrim for Android.
But Skyrim already had come out.
Skyrim
VR.
Yeah, Skyrim for one of those televisions that you put on refrigerators.
That game was already came out.
Question?
And
I didn't hear Liam's question.
Are you kidding me? That was the most ridiculous thing. You just pulled out a butcher's knife to fucking open your beer.
Don't you?
Get a $2 bottle opener. They put them on everything now.
Don't you always? That better be on the podcast, episode 1.